What's up? It's Joe Crest here, aka Ted Wheeler on Stranger Things. And look, I also wanted to say thanks so much for watching the show. That means a whole lot to all of us out here. But I want to give you a little dad advice before I get out of here, okay? A little dad advice here from your on-screen dad. Don't go out there. Just like Nike says, just don't do it. Go get him.
They've conquered the big screen. Now, get ready for the spin-off sure to send chills down your spine. It's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin in Don't Go Out There, the series.
Welcome back, everybody, to DGOT, the series. We really appreciate y'all listening. We hope y'all have been enjoying these series reviews. I know we have. It's been a lot of fun. Just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgooutthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgooutthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network, so there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. Welcome back, everybody, to DGOT, the series. We are back, baby, and it feels good. We took a few months off, because we had so many Blood Donor reviews. It was October. We had a lot of bonuses. So it just made sense to not overwhelm ourselves, to take a little bit of time off, but we're back for DGOT, the series. It's my pick. I chose Stranger Things Season 1, mostly because Stranger Things Season 5 is coming out later this year. They're finally wrapping it up. All these kids, just graduated college. I think they all got 6 kids by now. These folks is old. But anyway, we're revisiting Stranger Things Season 1. I picked it for that reason and because I really just like this show. I remember kind of, hearing the hype for Season 1 on the old Twitters when it was called that back in the day. And I kind of just watched it on a whim. I started binging at the house one Saturday, I believe. I thought it was kind of slow at first, but once it got to episode 4 and you get this twist reveal, I was hooked, line and sinker. I loved it. And I'm actually a fan of Season 2 as well, but I'm a big fan of Season 3. So I'm excited to review all of them down the road. But for these first 2 episodes, I kind of thought it would be slow revisiting them, but I'm so invested in these characters and, just getting to know these kids for so many years. I really enjoyed 1 and 2. Like, I might be alone in that, but I had a good time. Like, it just brought back some nostalgia. It was cool. It was cool seeing these characters young again. It was fun. Brian, what'd you think?
Yeah, I love this whole season. And I'm the first to admit it plays off my nostalgia more than anything. Let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. The first episode takes place November 6th of 1983. So, yes, I was alive, but I was 4 months old. Just throwing that out there.
Liar.
But yeah, it captures me. It sucks me into this entire world. I love just about everything 80s. And on top of that, mix in some sci-fi. Yeah, I'm in. You got me. Now, the 2 episodes, I love the first one, but the second one really is my favorite of the 2. The whole thing with Barb, we'll get to it, but it's to me, it puts the show from a Goonies kids type thing to like real stakes. And it takes the whole thing up a notch for me. The ending of episode 2 really is what got me into this series.
Yeah, I mean, it had been a long time since I've watched the first season, I'll be honest. It is in time a funny thing where the whole point of the show is 80s nostalgia, but now it's been so, as Nico mentioned, so damn long since this season first ran. It's nostalgic, right? I mean,
yeah,
the show
honestly
itself is now full of nostalgia for the old school Stranger Things, and I think that's very true. I love this season as well. There honestly, outside of a few episodes in season 2, there's not a season that I don't like. And I think 4, which we'll do at some point, I'm sure, 4 kind of gets a bad rap in my opinion, but I will die on the hill that it's a really good season. Anyway, I like this season. I think, Brian touched on it. I think episode 2 really turns it up a notch, right? It takes it from like a spooky whodunit to something definitely way more over the top, way more different, way more sci-fi, like you mentioned, Brian. Really good stuff. And, the character depth. In the first 2 episodes, we get some really, what I think, nuanced character work. It's not just, this guy's bad, this guy's a jock, these guys are nerds. Like, there is some character depth, and we get the introduction of Eleven and her, and, and starting her character arc. So I think the first 2 episodes are really good and a really good jumping off point for reintroducing DGOT, the series, and me being back on it, baby. We are back.
Yeah, what a show to do for our return. Now, I am alone in this show as far as my feelings on Stranger Things. I don't think I've only ever seen season 1. And kind of like Nico said, I heard all the hype it was getting. And so I was like, all right, let me check it out, because I don't ever like to be the only person that's not in the know. And so I checked it out. I binged season 1. I was like, oh, that was okay. But there was absolutely nothing in it that makes me have to see season 2, 3, 4, whatever they're on now. I think it's an okay show. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that it's kind of like when I mentioned the Beatles. I don't know that gets under Mike's skin, but I think the Beatles are a fine band. I think they're overrated. Overrated does not necessarily mean a bad thing. It means that the people hype it up to be bigger and better than what it was. And that's how I feel about this show. I think it's okay. First 2 episodes are pretty good, though.
I'm older and more mature now, but also go fuck yourself.
That's fine. And honestly, with shows, man, it's weird because I really like Dexter. I really liked Walking Dead season 1. I liked all the Black Mirror episodes for the most part, but I just didn't keep watching them just because, I don't know, shows just take commitment, and I just don't have that for shows most of the time. Hell, I don't even go see new movies half the time because why leave what you know, right? All right, guys, let's jump to the scene by scene. Got a lot to read. Let's get with it. November 6, 1983, Hawkins, Indiana. Hawkins National Laboratory, U.S. Department of Energy. Inside the building, lights are flickering until a doctor runs out of room full speed. He presses a button frantically to an elevator that opens slowly. The lights in the hall flicker until he hears a growl of a creature and is pulled above. We're at the Wheeler house as our group of kids play Dungeons and Dragons together. Mike slaps a Demogorgon on the board until Will rolls the dice off the board. Karen tells Mike the game's over and is in shock they've been playing for 10 hours. Man, that's good times, man. I remember being a kid playing games for 10 hours. Good times. The other boys pack up to leave as Dustin offers the last slice of pizza to Nancy, who slams the door in his face. The boys ride off on their bikes as Will tells Mike he rolled a 7. The Demogorgon got him. The outside lights flicker and the 3 boys ride the streets as a groovy techno score plays. Will wins the race and keeps riding but enters a restricted area at the Department of Energy. He swerves off the road, seeing a mysterious figure in the road. Will hears the same growling noise and takes off running, making it inside his house, but his mom and brother aren't there. A ghoulish figure is outside and walking to the home, and he calls the police to no success. The door unlocks via some telepathic power, and Will runs out to the shed and grabs a gun. He camps out Call of Duty style at the door, but the creature appears behind him, and the light goes out and he's gone. The Amazing Stranger Things score plays and opening credits roll. Title card, and we're at Sheriff Hopper's house, who is slumped on the couch. He awakes disgruntled and walks outside to smoke. He gets dressed and is off to work. Joyce is frantically looking for her keys and asks about Will. She goes into his room and notices he's not there. She and Jonathan discuss him working late, and she calls the Wheeler house. Joyce gets the news Will isn't there, and she grows concerned. The 3 boys make it to school, and they all notice Will isn't there, and the school bullies appear, making fun of their appearances. Dustin does his arm-popping thing, and they all walk off. Brian, that's the opening set of scenes. What do you think?
So right off the bat, this episode won an Emmy for Outstanding Single Camera Picture Editing for a Drama Series, and it's noticeably fantastic. Like, it's smooth. Dean Zimmerman, he did Deadpool and Wolverine, and one of my favorite dramas, This Is Where I Leave You. But relevant to this show and commonly referenced by Nico and Dustin, his first job as editor, Rush Hour 3. Now, all that praise just for me to say something that I would change. So here we go. I don't think that I would have opened with the scientist being ganked by the creature at the lab. Like, I think I would have opened on the sprinkler and the kids playing Dungeons and Dragons, which, according to the Duffer Brothers, is definitely an homage to the opening of E.T., which I loved that movie so much as a kid. So maybe that's why this sucks me in so quickly, because it's not even something I caught right off the bat. So it's like on a subconscious level. But the music, too, especially when Will is telling Mike that it was a 7, the Demogorgon got him, and knowing what's coming with that synthetic music, it gave me chill bumps. And the music was by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein, no relation to Ben Stein. But hell, they won an Emmy for the score as well. So that's not anything anybody probably didn't know, but it's the biggest part of what made this entire series so good to me. Like, they haven't done anything else really, but hell, what else do you need to do? I'm sure you've got the Mike Settle generational wealth after this series here. Oh, sorry, Mike, forgot you were back. But yeah, this opening is fantastic with the introductions to all the cast. They literally could not have picked a better cast for this. Everyone is absolutely perfect for their roles. You can tell the boys have real life chemistry and are real life friends. Nothing seems forced. The title card, iconic. Nearly a decade later, just the font is recognizable. Imaginary Forces design is credited for that, but most notably, Arisu Kashiwagi, who worked on Jessica Jones as well. So amazing open. I'll let the guys touch on the horror aspect with Will being taken, but last thing I want us to talk about is Winona Ryder. And I'll say this and I'll shut up. The first time I saw this, I did not know Winona Ryder was in this. And I thought, oh man, Winona Ryder is in this. She must be kind of hurting for some money. I had no idea how big this show was going to be and just how much her acting would add to the validity of this being taken seriously to me.
Man, I had so many old man jokes while you were talking. I forgot them all. I should have wrote them down. Anyway, like I mentioned, it's almost been a million years, it feels like, since I've watched this season. God, it feels like so long ago now. I already touched on it in my open, but this open is nostalgic. That is like, all right, it takes me back to a different time, which is really weird, but it really has been a long time, and the kids in the show are not kids anymore, and they're not kids by a long time. So anyway, that's a different point for a different day. I even wrote the kids were actually kids right here in my notes, so that's good. Look, I never was a D&D guy. I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. Never played it. Not really in my wheelhouse, but the only references I understand about Dungeons and Dragons are from this show. That's it. Everything else, I have no idea what's going on. But it's still kind of fun. Like for some reason, like Nico mentioned, just being with all your friends playing games, whether that be board games or video games for 9-10 hours a day. You go outside, throw football around, you come back and you play more games, like that kind of stuff. Really fun and nostalgic stuff there. Shout out to my man Dustin for trying to holler at Nancy. Not our Dustin, although he was too. Dustin from the show. Hey,
she's
buddy.
A kid.
Nancy? What?
She's
no,
a kid.
Nancy.
Yeah, she's in the show. She's a kid.
No, she's not when she filmed it. Calm down. Jesus. Anyway. But shout out to him, man. He had a lot of chutzpah, a lot of guts. It just didn't work out for him. That's okay. With the benefit of hindsight, the Will getting the Demogorgon in the game again. I don't know what any of that means, but not on the nose isn't the right term. But I'm like, oh, that's foreshadowing if I've ever seen any. I will say that they do a great job making this feels like an 80s movie, 80s TV show. They capture that mood and atmosphere, that essence so freaking well. I use mood and atmosphere all the time, but it's for good reason, and this movie does it super great. Or excuse me, this TV show does it super great. For a long time, I never skipped the intro. And I don't know if Nico and Brian are the same way, but I always let that on. I'm like, yeah, man, this gets me into the mood of the episode. I'm not skipping this. Let's go. And I didn't do that here either. Hopper ends up being a fascinating character as the season progresses, but he's introduced here, and I'm glad that he doesn't stay this way. It's more of like just a normal bumbling 80s movie cop. And, he gets a lot more depth, a lot more fascinating as the series goes. But here I'm just like, another bad 80s cop is about to be, but I could not have been more wrong. Last thing I have here is, Dustin, when he talks about his teeth coming in, and I know Dustin can appreciate this, our Dustin. That's going to be confusing for a while. And he said, my teeth are coming in. He sounds like, I'm Scott Malkinson. I have diabetes from South Park. So that's what I kept thinking of. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, first of all, let me touch on Dungeons and Dragons here. So I've never played it either, but funny story about it is one of my good friends. He's been one of my good friends since for 15 years. We always talked about it. We always talked about neither one of us had ever played it. And so one year for his birthday, probably 6 years ago, I bought him the Dungeons and Dragons starter pack for his birthday, and we still have not ever played it. But anyway, it's a solid open here with a calm look at the lab. And then, I might have to disagree with you, Brian. I do like that they started at the lab here because we get some instant panic as the guys running down the hallway and get snatched up. To me, it's a good way to show us that it's going to get the adrenaline flowing once we get going in the story. So I don't mind that. Then we meet the gang. And let me say that I hate that this show got as big as it did for the simple fact that whenever I see one of those search your name in the GIFs and post the results, I only ever get this curly-headed kid with a lisp. Like, it's annoying as hell. And he's got no game. Hey, here's a slice of pizza for you. And she shuts the door in his face. He brings shame to my name, to be honest with you. Pretty good jump scare when Doofus crashes his bike. I don't get why he just ditched his bike and ran home, though. I mean, if I was his mom, I would have beat his ass. That's a nice bicycle. They even touch on that later. That's a nice bike. We see Alexei from Black Widow now. He's the chief. And I know Mike and Nico get that reference. Super underrated MCU movie. I mean, it has my two biggest celebrity crushes ever in it, Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh. So Black Widow movie is goated. I did find it interesting here that the school bus at the school said Roane County Schools. There's no Roane County in Indiana, but there actually is one here in Tennessee, and it's the next county over from where I am right now, and it's spelled the same way. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, not a bad open. We're just establishing some things.
All right, we cut to Nancy, who makes it to school and is met up with by Barb. She tells Nancy she better hang out with her still, even though she's making out with Steve now. They're kissing in the bathroom, and she panics, wanting to get to class, but Steve wants to come over and study. He says he'll climb in the window, but Nancy tells him to meet him tonight at 8 to study. Hopper makes it to work, and the deputies roast him for looking rough. He's made aware of Joyce not being able to find her son, but he ignores it all. Mornings are for coffee and contemplation, and I feel you on that, brother. He gets to his office, and Joyce is already there waiting for him. Hopper plays it off as hooky, but Joyce says he's different. He wouldn't do this. Hopper thinks it's his father who took him and asked for the number. Joyce is desperate, begging Hopper to find him. Back at the Department of Energy, and Dr. Brenner meets with others who are suiting up in protective gear. They enter a dark hall with floating particles in the air. They get to a door that's mangled and covered in weird matter. They make it to a wall that's alive, making noises and making groaning noises, assuming the girl couldn't have gotten far. We see said girl in the woods who sees a man taking out the trash at a restaurant. She enters the restaurant and makes it into the kitchen. She sees a basket of fries and begins munching on them joints. She spotted, chased, caught, and called a boy until he gets a good look at her. Class dismisses, but nobody listens until Mr. Clark takes the three boys to another room, showing them the radio that came in that has capability to chat with people all the way in Australia. The three boys make Australian accents until they're pulled into the principal's office by Hopper and questioned about Will. Hopper tells them all to go home as the boys continue fighting with each other over The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Hopper asks them if he's made himself clear sternly before leaving. All right, Brian, so next set of scenes, what do you think?
Well, we get to meet Barb for the first time here. First-time actress and Shannon Purser. Definitely inspired by Stephanie Steinbrenner from the Goonies. Huge glasses, perm hair, name abbreviated to Steph. I mean, definitely another nod there. Steve as well. I love Steve. I know he's kind of written to be a little bit of a douche at first and grow on you. And yeah, I do. I love his arc. I will give him that. But truthfully, I liked him from the start. I'll climb in your window stealthily like a ninja. Joe Carey's line delivery just wins me over. I don't know. And I'm kind of surprised, actually, that he hasn't gotten more roles through the years since this, to be quite honest. I think now that I think about it, I think this is just about the only thing I've ever seen him in. Hopper's introduction, like Dustin said. Lexi, I think he was Hellboy too, but I don't like any of the Hellboy movies, so fuck that. He's from Black Widow, like you said. He's fantastic. The Duffers killed it with his first interaction with Joyce talking about Will. Lonnie used to call him a well, is he? He's missing. That's what he is. So good. So I don't know. That was just so good. I died laughing. Again, though, I'll keep complaining about this, but cutting back to the research facility. I mean, it kind of fills us in on what's happening. I agree, but I don't want to know that stuff yet. Like, it takes me out of it a little bit. Like, maybe show us that after we've met 11 and don't know that she's missing from the facility. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but did anyone else ever watch this show called Kyle XY back in the day with Jamie Alexander from Thor? I did. I don't know why I did, but 11's whole thing here reminds me of that show, if you've ever seen it. So
I was going to ask how old you were during that, Brian, but I think I already know. Anyway, I'm just kidding, brother. I love you. I said I wasn't going to keep doing this in January 2025, but I am.
I was 53 to answer your question when that came out.
We get a Barb appearance. It's been forever. And the plot of this show gets so wild and so insane as the season goes on. This just feels like simpler times. They're at school. They're hanging out with their friends. Again, nostalgia for the show, not the 80s, which is crazy. Look, I don't like Steve and Nancy as a couple in this season. Now, if we ever, which I'm sure we will, get to some later seasons, I have some hot takes about Nancy's love life and love interests, but I'll save those. I do like the line of coffee and contemplation. I think that's fun. This is the 80s, and we get a really drawn-out typewriter scene. A typewriter at a police station at Hopper's desk is wild to think about now, just how fancy and advanced everything is. And you go to make a police report, and he's sitting there on a typewriter. I don't know. It just cracks me up, man. Again, I like this, where Joyce kind of talks about Will and his friends make fun of him. Man, friends make fun of each other all the time. That is what this show that we do currently is about. If you guys didn't make fun of me for stuff that's not true, of course, and I didn't make fun of you for stuff that is all true, we would not be friends, and that would suck. That would be very boring. I will say, now that I am cheap and I have ads on my Netflix, there was an ad for Monday Night Raw right here featuring the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, of course. What a great show that's going to be. Anyway, just throwing that out there. I had like 4 ads during these 2 episodes. I'm like, this sucks. But it was fine. It was good. At least one was Cody Rhodes. Again, Millie Bobby Brown is 11 here. Does a great job. Just seeing her like way back in the day, now, compared to now, it's just a wild ride. Like, it really is. Like, how the character of 11 evolves, but going back to these roots, I think is really good. I also eat French fries like that. When fries are good and fries are elite, that's how I eat my French fries. AV Club? That's probably something Brian was in, nerds. Sorry, man. I've never heard of AV Club. It's audio video. I know.
Wasn't in that.
You sure?
Yes, sure. God damn it.
If you had one, you would have been, wouldn't it? Huh? Yeah? Okay. Anyway, last thing. I love that these kids think they're little adults. The way they talk to their teacher is like a bunch of little smart-ass assholes, man. And Hopper as well. The dynamic with them and Hopper in these first 2 seasons, I think is a lot of fun and really good. The banter, the kind of hell they give him, and he gives it back to them with really no filter. I think it's fun.
Yeah, Hopper made me laugh when he said his mom thought he was on the debate team, but really he was screwing a chick in the back of his dad's Oldsmobile. Like, that was funny. I like the talk of, quote, the girl and how she couldn't have gone far, and then we immediately cut to 11. No need to drag that out and make us wonder who they're talking about or what's going on. Well done there. Great pacing. The scene in which Chief Hopper is typing the police report was intentionally framed identically to a scene in Jaws, which is one of the Duffer Brothers' favorite films. So I thought that was cool. I will give them credit. All of the little Easter eggs and tips of the cap that they do to classics is very well done. The look on the boys' face when the principal asked for them with Hopper, that was great because I know they were panicking inside. So good job on all the 3 young actors there showing their panic. I'm still interested in the story so far.
Joyce makes it to Castle Byers with a big old USA flag and rings the bell. She enters and shows Will the tickets to Poltergeist he's now allowed to see. The 2 joke until Joyce comes to, and we see her and Jonathan yelling for Will. The cook makes the girl a burger, and she doesn't answer any of his questions about her parents or neglect. He takes the burger and says he'll give it back after they talk. He asks her name, but she doesn't answer until she sees a tattooed 11 on her forearm. She says no, and he threatens to take the food. He asks what 11 means, and she says she's 11. Benny calls the police about the girl until 11 uses her powers to turn the noisy fan off. Hopper and the deputies are out walking, calling for Will Byers. Hopper finds his bicycle off the road and doesn't think he got hurt or would abandon the bike. We see folks listening in on calls and cut to Joyce talking to her ex-husband's new girlfriend who hangs up on her. Jonathan tries to calm her down and she calls her ex back and leaves a voicemail about their son missing. Cops show up at their house and Hopper shows them the found bike. Hopper looks around for clues he made it home possibly. Hopper goes outside and notices the dog barking at the shed. Hopper enters the shed and turns the light on. The lights begin flickering as Hopper looks around and he grabs a flashlight. He's jump scared by a deputy and the light turning on abruptly. Hopper tells him to get as many people as possible to form a search party. Mike tells his family at a dinner they should be helping find Will, and Karen says we must stay put and listen to the sheriff. Nancy brings up studying to her parents at Barb's. Will brings up Steve to the table and family drama pops off until Nancy storms away. Mike walks off frustrated now too as Ted nonchalantly eats his chicken, disconnected from what just happened. All right, Bryce, next set of scenes, what do you think? And don't forget, brother, Joe Keery was in a movie we just reviewed called Slice.
Yeah.
Oh, I did forget that.
He was in like 2 scenes, but he was in it.
You're right. Well, as far as this set of scenes goes, what a fake out at the start of this. When Joyce pulls up to the castle and we see Will inside, I thought, oh shit, they're pulling one over on everybody. But also, just such great acting between Winona and Noah there. Again, just genuine interaction between mother and son that feels real because of these actors. And it's even more effective when it cuts to present day and he's gone. And again, just another tug on those heartstrings from the Duffers. Also, Chris Sullivan does a really good job of playing that role as Benny, this big ass dude having a soft side. And I knew I recognized him, but he was, as Mike and Nico will remember, Taserface on Guardians of the Galaxy. But also, I wanted to point out this cut that stood out to me in the set of scenes. Benny is talking to 11 at the table, and it stays on that scene while we hear the phone conversation Benny has with DHS. Is it DHS? Is that the kids services, social services thing?
Yeah.
Whatever. DHF? Is it DHS? I don't know.
No, it's S. My mom used to work there.
Benny has with DHS before it cuts to him. Like we hear it before we see it. And I just fucking loved that. It stood out to me. I also love how the deputies and Hopper, they're not even really taking Will being gone seriously at all. And it's kind of fucking around when they pull it to Mirkwood until Hopper finds his bike. Like the music kicks in, the entire tone changes of the entire episode. You're just like, oh shit, like this is serious. Especially when Hopper pulls up to the Byers' house with the bike. And truthfully, the tension when Hopper walks outside to the shed and you think he's about to possibly find a body, very, very well done. Also, shout out to Joe Crest, who did the intro for us way back when we were doing True Detective Season 1. He plays such a terrible dad. I mean, no offense, but I think this is probably how most dads were in the 80s. I don't know. At least that's how they're portrayed a lot in a lot of stuff. No wonder Mrs. Wheeler wants a little Billy in Season 3. Spoiler alert there, but go ahead.
I can't lie. Walking around, look, I've never been on a search party for anybody, so I don't want to criticize. I know it's the 80s, but walking around screaming for someone normally probably doesn't work, right? Like we're just screaming their name into the void. I don't think that's going to work. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I got a chuckle out of it. I know that's sad. However, if you found 11 in real life in this situation or somebody like this, you'd be mortified. Like, yeah, you'd feed her, but golly, I don't know if I'd be able to speak, move. Like, I would have called someone immediately. I would definitely think it was some kind of trafficking ring or something. So and right after a very emotional scene, another ad is playing for the university I currently attend, which is Southern New Hampshire. So great job, cheap Netflix. I appreciate that. Again, I forgot that all the Byers calls are being tracked now, which is an interesting little thing that gets touched on a lot more later. Hopper walks out with the bike. I'm not going to lie. My heart, would have sunk. Like, man, you brought the kid's bike back. I don't know what, I would immediately go into very bad negative thoughts. He's kind of searching through the shed and the light bulb turning off is what made this place, I don't know, too much for you. Like, I don't know what happened there, but anyway, I forget in this episode, just this episode, Nancy's kind of a prick. Like, Nancy's kind of an asshole, to a lot, at the dinner table. I think she's little bit of a bitch, man. But again, Mike is not the easiest little brother to have. He's self-absorbed and kind of, spoiler alert for Dustin, he kind of stays self-absorbed, honestly, until
Thanks, dude. You ruined the whole show for me.
Yeah, well, until season 4, he totally redeems himself. Anyway, last thing, sorry, but I wouldn't let Nancy leave the house either. Go ahead.
All right. Pretty cool first look at Eleven's powers here. It's subtle, but it's also obvious. So I thought that was well done. It was quick. The dog barking is kind of meh to me. I mean, has the dog been barking like that all day? Because if so, why didn't she check the shed before? And if not, why did it just now start barking? I don't know. I didn't like that. I thought it was too convenient. Solid creepy score when the lights go out when Hopper is looking in the shed. Good tension built in there. It's a creepy scene. And I just know Ted was low key excited to finish his meal alone. That many people in the house, some quiet time was probably very welcomed. So I'm ready for the finish of the episode though. Brian nods vigorously.
Search party is in the woods yelling for Will. Scott tells Hopper that Will is a great student and he tells Scott he hated science in school. Hopper tells Scott his daughter lives in the city with his mom until another woman tells him his daughter died a few years back. Mike radios for Lucas expressing his worry for Will. Mike brings up the game they played and Will risking himself for others in the game. The two pack up and Mike catches Steve climbing up to Nancy's room. Nancy is shocked seeing him and he sneaks in like a ninja. Benny is washing dishes, observing Eleven eat ice cream, and she finally cracks a smile. Knock at the door and Eleven looks panicked. Connie from social services shows up and shoots him dead upon entering the restaurant. Eleven runs off, using her powers to kill two others to escape out the back door. Dr. Brenner looks out the door in frustration. The three boys make it to where Will rode his bike through, and Dustin thinks they should head back feeling raindrops. They enter the woods, and we cut back to Steve and Nancy studying. He tries to make the game sexy, and Nancy gets one wrong, and he tells her to take an item of clothing off. The two begin kissing as Africa by Toto, a certified banger, plays. He begins unbuttoning her shirt, and she stops him, saying her parents are here. Nancy says she isn't a slut, and Steve turns the Riz on. He gets back to the study cards, and we're back at Joyce's house as they look through pictures. She apologizes to Jonathan for not being there like she should. Jonathan gets emotional and expresses regret not being there for Will. Touching moment between the two as they cry and smile looking at a picture of Will until the phone rings. It's a distorted call of sounds, groans, and noises until the phone shocks her. She cries knowing it was him, and Jonathan embraces her. The three friends walk the woods calling for Will as Lucas and Dustin argue about staying and leaving. Mike hears the noise and they find 11 as the episode ends. All right, Brian, that's the end of the episode. What'd you think?
Fantastic. Like, learning about Hopper's daughter dying here at the start of the set of scenes instantly gives that character empathy without him even doing anything. I mean, and up to this point, he's kind of been a hard ass, and now with that one line of dialogue, we understand why. That is fantastic writing. That's how you give us information without having the character just say it out loud in some weird forced set of lines looking at you. It's a wonderful knife. Now, one reference I did catch and loved, especially the visuals, was the scene where the three boys pull up to the edge of the woods at night with their bikes. Definitely a reference to the scene in the Goonies when the boys first pull up outside the Fratelli's hideout on their bikes. The music is almost identical, as is the conversation. I mean, you can honestly see Mikey, Mouth, Chunk, and Data in these exact roles of Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will. I mean, it's kind of a can't-miss formula. I mean, it works every time. Goonies here, Stand By Me with Chris, Gordy, Teddy, Vern, that whole crew. It's like Sex Panther cologne. 60% of the time, it works every time.
That's from Anchorman, Nico.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Oh, okay.
I've seen it. That's back in the early 2000s. That's when comedies were those are the best run of comedies.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers to me is still probably top 5 comedy ever made.
Great comedy.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. Again, I sure would appreciate if I understood these D&D references. But yay for cool, nerdy stuff like that Marvel thing Brian was talking about, Rake Face or something. That sounded fun. Anyway.
Oh, brother.
What happened? Sorry. Sorry, I don't speak nerd. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But they forgot. Okay, so I forgot they come and get 11 like this is what I'm trying to say before I just Floyd Mayweather all over the place. I forgot they come and get 11 like this. And it's probably the first sign of stakes in the series. Like, yeah, Will's been taken, but, up to this point, we don't know all that's going on. But now there's something really, or they come and try to take 11. There's something bigger going on than just a kid missing. Now something is really weird with this town, with this doctor that we've seen. Like, there's some weird stuff going on. And I think, it leads into episode 2, but it kind of starts to kick into overdrive here with that scene. Side note, White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane, great fucking song and great use of that song here. They also used Africa by Toto, which is good, but not Toto's best song. That would be Hold the Line. So you're welcome. My man, Steve knew what he was doing here. This before the new Steve that we know now in the later seasons. But this Steve knew what he was doing. And I bet he regrets these actions because of how him and Nancy kind of do things later on in the series. But anyway, I will say this is a touching scene with Joyce and Jonathan looking through pictures. I really, really like that. It adds a depth. It adds character to Jonathan, which we haven't heard a ton from yet. I think it works really well. One thing I never understood about these pick-up phone calls, at least early on, is who is making these calls? Is it Will from the Upside Down? Is it the Demogorgon? Like, who's calling Joyce? Nobody. Sorry, no, go ahead.
I think it's Scareface.
It's probably Rakeface, right? Isn't that guy's name? Rakeface?
Taserface.
Rakerface? The hell's a Rakerface? Anyway.
Taserface, Laserface,
okay.
Blazerface.
Anyway, the Upside Down has very little rules. And so I don't like that. I don't like how loose the Upside Down gets, at least later on. Again, very first episode, we finally get some stakes. The show doesn't really make us wait for the important stuff, which Dustin kind of touched on about the pacing. There's a couple episodes in later years where there's a few slow moments, but right here, man, we kick it off the right way. We're not wasting time like I'm doing right now. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, pretty tough hearing that Hopper's daughter died, especially after he said that, she lived in the city with her mom. You can feel his hurt there. I thought that was really well done. And then these nerds, he could have cast protection, but he didn't. Yeah, D&D would have mattered. Geeks. God. Very tense when, quote, social services shoot the diner owner. A lot of moving parts here. Then my dog, Steve. That's a horn dog. Strip Study is a wild game to play with the parents' home. I do love Africa by Toto playing here. Great song. Nico, you said it. Certified banger. Great scene with Joyce and Jonathan here. It's very emotional. And again, you can feel the hurt. They're very believable as mother and son. I love their dynamic and chemistry. When she gets the phone call, I don't know why she didn't just summon Beetlejuice. I mean, he may not have been able to help, but it's worth a shot.
Very true.
To me, nothing really groundbreaking or anything that I loved, but not a bad first episode either.
Beetlejuice wasn't out yet, though, was it? Didn't it come out like 88?
Well, this was 2016.
Who said 86? Come on, guy.
I know. Joke still had to get off, though.
You know how funny that would have been, though? Beetlejuice. That would have been some meta bullshit there.
Similar to how we did it before, I'll keep it going. I'm going to rate these individually to help me keep track of how much I liked them so I can do a composite at the end. I gave episode 1 a 7. Thought it was fine.
I really like in I think it's season 2 when they go trick-or-treating. They're all dressed up as Ghostbusters. Yeah. One's dressed up as Michael Myers. God dang it, man. That's a fun episode. Y'all got anything else before you jump on to episode 2?
Nope, let's do it.
All right. I forgot to read the title of the first episode, but I'll start now. Chapter 2, The Weirdo on Maple Street. Are back at Mike's and they have 11 in the basement. They keep asking her questions and she's not answering. Mike gives her some clean, dry clothes and she begins undressing in front of them, but Mike sends her to the bathroom to change in private. The three boys discuss 11, calling her weird, and Lucas thinks she's escaped the crazy place. Mike diffuses the situation and lays out a plan for handling 11. Lucas and Dustin leave and Mike asks her name. She shows him the 11 tattoo confirming that's her name. He suggests calling her L, short for 11, and she tells him goodnight. 11 breaks down in tears as she lies down to sleep. Title card and we're back to the Byers house. Joyce and Jonathan have breakfast and she cries while discussing the day. Hopper shows up telling her the bad news. She tells him about the phone call and he sees how burnt it is. He asks to confirm it was Will, but he thinks it's a prank call. She asks for the same trust but says it's an emotional time and she brings up his daughter, which causes him to walk away. And like y'all mentioned, I really love Hopper's writing about his daughter, Breville. It's really emotional at the end of the season with it. He says it's been long enough and he's going to contact Lonnie. Jonathan runs out suggesting he go to Lonnie, but he stops him saying, stay with your mom. Mike stashes some Eggos in his pocket, and he and his sister begin arguing about studying. Mike goes downstairs and gives her the waffle. Mike tells her the plan, but she says no. She doesn't want his mom to get help. Mike asks who she in trouble with. She says bad people and does a shooting motion to her head and at Mike. His mom calls for him and he runs upstairs. Dr. Brenner listens back to the call between Joyce and dispatch. The search team is out again, but no luck still. One deputy thinks Chief and Joyce must have screwed before, but the other ignores it and they keep looking for Will. All right, Brian, that's the opening set of scenes. What do you think?
I'm pretty sure the title of this is a reference to Stephen King's short story, The House on Maple Street. I've actually never read that one, but there you go. I do love the conversation between the boys in the house as well. Again, their chemistry is it's top notch. And Dustin keep him bringing up 11, wanting to get naked, cracked my ass up too. And yeah, brought up the connections to E.T. in the first episode. But the Duffer Brothers have said the references are most prominent in this one on purpose. Quote, just as E.T. is about the connection between E.T. and Elliot, the Weirdo on Maple Street is about the connection between Eleven and Mike. You know, in the film, Elliot fakes an illness to stay home from school and be with E.T. He shows E.T. the toys, including Star Wars figures. Mike does exactly the same. In the next set of scenes, obviously, showing her the Yoda figurine. He's from Star Wars, Nico and Mike. But also, when alone, Eleven explores the Wheeler house because becoming mesmerized by the television. E.T. did the same in Elliot's home. So nice. Like Dustin mentioned, just love how they're touching on all the classics. Also, last thing, I didn't really touch on Charlie Heaton, Jonathan in the first episode. That kid is a fantastic actor. Like, he's perfect in this role too. I've never seen him in anything else, but he's got some serious acting chops. And I mean, when you're holding your own opposite of Winona Ryder and playing the elder son, trying to hold things together as the man of the house, but yet you can tell he's broken up himself. I mean, I thought he's amazing. I do think realistically, given Hopper's backstory with his daughter, he would have probably been less likely to blow off the whole phone call conversation by Will, though. I mean, like he did as Joyce was trying to convince him. But just a nitpick from me. Another great group of scenes and open.
Yeah, this would be super weird to find someone of this age like yourself just in the middle of the road, in the middle of the woods. I'm not sure. Even at that age, my first thought would be to hide it like this. Like, I know you're trying to hide it from your parents because you think that you're going to get in trouble, but I don't know. I probably would go like, hey, Mom, I found this girl in the middle of the road. We might want to do something about this. I don't know. That's just me. I agree, though, Brian. This getting dressed scene is hilarious. It's hilarious, man. The way the kids freak out when she's about to get, because 11 gave zero fucks. And why would she? She doesn't know any better. This is going to sound demeaning. I promise I don't mean it this way. But she's almost, at least to me, Millie Bobby Brown's almost playing this like a rescue dog. Like, it's going to take her some time to adjust and get used to, like, people. She comes from a place where people don't treat her well. And now she's with these kids. Like, she doesn't trust anyone. She doesn't know anyone. And she's been used to being able to do as she kind of pleases unless she's being, spoiler, tested on. Again, that's the way I think it was written. Unfortunately for Joyce, I have seen a phone be fried like that. Like, that is a tough day at the office. I've seen an old school, rotary phone, which Brian probably was around when it was invented. I've seen it be fried like that. I'm sorry. That was a little too old, Brian. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was over the line. I promise. Honestly, the anatomy line for Mike is a zinger. That is awesome. Studying anatomy. I think that's a great little brother jab to throw at someone. Again, last thing, I'm going to give Millie her flowers here as a child actor. She's clearly a kid, but I think she's doing a great job of portraying someone that's been through a lot in such a little time. She's almost nonverbal. And her acting of like not being able to speak very well is really, really good. Like, I think she does a great job here as this character. And I think she's probably almost underrated in the, as far as the lore of the show and why it's so successful. I know that sounds crazy because she's kind of maybe the biggest star to come out of the show from the kids group, but no, I think her contributions are underrated in my opinion. from what I see online, not from us in this group. From there are people that think 11 should have been killed off. No, 11 probably should not be killed off. Spoiler: she's not killed off, Dustin.
Do you think that Finn Wolfhard is bigger than her?
Yes, I was going to say him because he was in. I think so because he was in an A24 movie called When You Finish Saving the World. So
yeah, he's definitely bigger than her. Never mind. I'm
still going to go no because Millie's most of her movies are just Netflix, right? Because she signed that however many picture deal with Netflix, so she's kind of exclusive to them for the most part. But I think that ends soon, so it will be interesting to see.
Plus, she's the only one that had Drake in her DMs. So, I mean, there's that.
Gross.
Yeah. I'm gonna look up the Instagram followers. Not that means anything, but Millie has 63.4.
Hold on. I was gonna say, hold on. That's not a good judge.
I mean, she has 63.4. He has 21.8.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean that.
Yeah.
Again, I think we know why.
I mean this respectfully.
And she's married to Bon Jovi's son. She's more famous than he is.
I mean this respectfully. Look at her and look at him. Of course, she's going to have more followers.
We're straying so far from my original point, which her portrayal of young 11 on the show.
No, I think she's great as 11, but I don't like how. Honestly, as you get to season 4, I feel like 11 and Mike's characters have the worst character arc. Though it's the same shit fair. Over and over and over. Like by season 4, I like Lucas and Max way better.
Well, yeah, so Max is probably my favorite character of the show. But
same.
Really quick. The Halloween after this season came out, everyone was 11 with the Eggos and the dress and stuff, even like grown-ass men. That shit was hilarious. What a great Halloween that was.
That's a little weird, but I remember that. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, it's a little off.
Come talk to me when Millie Bobby Brown is in Ghostbusters. And not Bobby Brown, because Bobby Brown sang in Ghostbusters too.
Oh, now I see where the bias is coming from.
Well, she was in Godzilla vs. Kong. Or Godzilla and Kong, whatever that movie was called.
Hey, Finn was also in It. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
That's true.
All right. Good open here with Joyce and Jonathan being emotional wrecks again. I'll say Winona acted her ass off in this season. Like, she really acted better than she... And I think she's a fine actress, but I think this is probably some of the best work of her career.
Oh, yeah.
If not the best. Hopper, my man was a little too aggressive with Jonathan when he asked to go with him. That punch was vicious. I would have claimed police brutality. Run me my money. He ain't punching me in the shoulder. But I did laugh too, Brian, when Dustin was like, he just kept mimicking her, taking her shirt off. That was so funny. I laughed at that. I don't have much on this open. It's a slower start to the episode, but the story has been established, so we're pretty much just world building now.
Absolutely. Back at school, Barb and Nancy keep going over study cards until Steve takes them. He tells her about his parents leaving and coming over for a party. The group's judging Jonathan for hanging up a missing person poster, and Nancy walks over and shares condolences. Bell rings and she wishes him luck walking away. Dustin and Lucas sit down in class wondering what happened with Mike, and they worry if they will get caught. Mike is riding his bike home and takes 11 on a tour of the house, flexing the inches on his TV. I see you, brother. 11 looks at the pictures of his family and sits in the lazy boy, getting a good scare when it reclines. Jonathan hears, "Should I stay or should I go?" and remembers a time between he and Will at home jamming to this song. Jonathan tells Will he doesn't have to like normal things and be himself, and they go back to jamming out. Joyce makes it to her job and buys a new phone. She doesn't have any money, though, and asks for a 2 weeks advance of pay. She makes her plea, and her boss helps her out, which I thought was an emotional scene. A crew of guys in PPE suits check out the shed and find the same matter. Mike shows 11 his dinosaur toys, and she walks off, observing his trophies from science fair. 11 has an emotional reaction seeing Will and points at him. They hear his mom show up, and they run back up the stairs. He stashes 11 in the closet, promising not to tell his mom. 11 gets claustrophobic, remembering a time when she was separated from Papa and thrown in the closet at the Department of Energy. Mike is telling his mom he's not feeling good, and she gives him a pass knowing he's dealing with a lot with Will. She comforts him, letting him know she can talk to him. We hear a thud, and he runs upstairs, finding 11 crying in the closet. Mike checks on her, and she promises. All right, Bronson, next set of scenes, what do you think?
Another great scene between Charlie Heaton and Natalie Dyer at the start of the set of scenes. Most people may know this already. I did not. That they started dating somewhere around this time, and as of 2024 are still together in real life. well, which is even more impressive given their arcs through the rest of the seasons with those two and Steve and their little love triangle. But anyway. Also, another notable transition in this group of scenes from the TGRI guys looking at the ooze on the window and how it transitions to Will banging down that Yoda on the table. Chef's kiss there. Also, another fun fact. I've never seen the movie, but from the Internet Movie Database, the shooting style, music, and cutting pattern of the scene when Eleven sees the picture of Will is closely modeled after a scene from 1985's Witness when Samuel Lapp points out the evil Danny Glover to Harrison Ford. And again, I've never seen it, but it sounds awesome. I'll add that to the old list. And last thing about this group of scenes is just basically the ending and Millie Bobby Brown's acting chops. Like, she kills it. Like Mike said, her acting is fantastic. And showing the flashback of her being drug off by the orderlies screaming for Papa and it being triggered by being in the closet. She really is. She is such a good actress. Too bad they blow it in season 2 with her, but we'll get there.
I will say this episode in particular, you mentioned world building. I think this episode's really good for character depth. We are getting a lot of nuance and a lot of different characters in one episode, and I think they do a really good job. However, Nancy is not wrong here. A Tuesday party? I mean, I was an animal in high school, but I would not be attending unless we were on some kind of break. Winter break, fall break, spring break, I'm not out here on a Tuesday night. I got to go home. I got to go to bed. I can't be doing all that, even back then. This scene with John and Nancy here is sweet. The first episode kind of makes Nancy unlikable, and I think they turn that around for the most part until the Barb stuff. Again, I think they kind of turned around, laying some good character work, like I mentioned. And I mentioned 11 kind of being written like a rescue dog. Well, here she is smelling everything. So I don't think my analysis is too far off there. She's smelling everything. She's looking at everything. I think it's something. Here's a hot take musically. I let Dustin have his Beatles opinion without too much pushback there, which I will from now on as an older, more mature man. Also go fuck yourself. This is the only good song from The Clash. Fight me if someone disagrees. The only Clash song that I'm a fan of. I feel awful for Joyce here. No one, and I do mean no one, is proud to ask for pay in advance like this. Especially you could tell how proud of a hard worker that she is, her character. You could see it on her face how, not sad, but she's definitely not proud to ask for money in advance like this, but she needs it. Everyone does the best they can, and times get tough. And I just feel like it's a really well portrayed scene by Winona Ryder. And then at the end, she kind of wait a minute. I've been working here forever, never taken a day off, never called in sick. Give me my damn money. And I appreciate that. I feel like they do a decent enough job slowly laying groundwork for the Will 11 connection that I guess pays off a little bit later on, I guess. I'll speak on that when we get there. Well-acted scene by Millie Bobby Brown, and we get a really good glimpse of where 11 has been. We get more depth, more character, like I mentioned. And here's a sweet moment between Mike and his mom, I think, really touching.
Yeah, I think it's good stuff with Mike and 11 bonding and getting acquainted here. Even better when she points out Will in the picture. It's a great way to build intrigue and suspense. And very solid acting by Millie Bobby Brown. As she gets in the closet, you can see the anxiety in her face. And then even more good acting in the flashback. Hats off to her. She did a great job at portraying her terror. This set of scenes is really hard to take notes on, but it's still a solid episode so far.
All right, y'all bear with me. This is my section 4 of a movie that I took too many notes on, but here we go. Joyce frantically unpacks the phone and plugs it into the wall. She sits in her chair, waiting patiently for a call. The cops are at a cliff looking over a lake. Hopper says this leap would kill you as he gets a radio. He's made aware of a call at Benny's and they head over. They find Benny dead at the table, thinking possible suicide. Jonathan makes it to Lonnie's and walks in the house calling for Will. Lonnie grabs him, pushing him to the wall. He introduces Cynthia to his son, but it's very apparent the relationship is strained. Mike tells Lucas and Dustin 11 knows about Will and bad people are after her. Lucas grabs her, saying, "Tell us where he is," and Dustin asks Mike about the kind of danger they'd be in if they turn 11 in. Lucas goes to tell Karen, but 11 uses her powers to slam the door shut, saying no, as her nose bleeds. Lonnie tells Jonathan Why didn't he call Mom back? And she needs to get Jonathan out of that hellhole Hawkins. Lonnie critiques her parenting as Jonathan gives him a missing persons flyer. Hopper chats with Earl about Benny and nothing weird's going on. He tells Hopper about this kid that showed up. Hopper asks more about the kid and the appearance. Earl confirms it wasn't Will and confirms he didn't get a good look, but it could have been Will if he had a buzz cut. Nancy is telling Barb to lie to her parents and join her at Steve's house. We're at the dinner table and it's awkward. Dustin and Lucas say they had 2 sandwiches for lunch, and Nancy tells Karen about the special assembly for Will. Mike almost spits up milk seeing 11 walk down the stairs. The search party is at Benny's looking around and the deputy isn't buying Will has a buzzed head. Teacher Steve shows Hopper a tag he found in a drain pipe. 11 has brought food and Mike tells 11 they won't tell on her. 11 asks what a friend is and the boys explain friendship. Nancy has Barb pull over and she says they will walk to Steve's 3 blocks away. Barb says Steve only wants to get in her pants and Barb can't believe she's acting like this. They make it to Steve's house and ring the doorbell. Steve opens the door and we cut to Hopper's room where he's naked with a lady whom he made coitus with. She checks on him and he asks if she's ever felt cursed. She invites him back inside and he says he'll be there shortly. All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes. What do you think? And the next is the ending.
I think we brought it up in our Walking Dead review. Don'tGoOutThere.com. But the rock quarry that Hopper and the search party are at the start of the set of scenes, the same one used in season 1 of The Walking Dead as well, just to repeat something that we said there. But on the same note, when Jonathan visits his dad's house to see if Willis is there, to see if Will is there, when he pulls up and gets out of the car, you can see the Terminus building in the background of that shot, also from Walking Dead. I don't have, you may have read a lot, but I don't have personally a lot on scene by scene for this, notes for this set of scenes. The next set is my favorite. I did love the conversation between Hopper and that girl, Sandra, played by Stephanie Butler. She was also on Ozark. Great show there. But David Harbour's voice here, very, very Harrison Fordish. Like you could close your eyes and I would think it was Harrison Ford on that dock talking to her. Just something I wanted to point out. That's it.
Man, and Brian, you can attest to this. That was a snazzy phone back in the day that Joyce bought. That thing looks nice as hell. What? Am I wrong about this?
What do you mean by that, brother?
Anyway, I do forget that they put a bullet in this man's head. Jesus. And then they, try to say suicide. Yeah. Okay, Val. Anyway, that's how the government gets away with everything. I tell you what. Again, I forgot that John's dad is an asshole like this. It's been so long since since I've watched it. I forgot he existed. And if you know what that is, you just know I quoted Taylor Swift on accident. Anyway, I kind of forget that Lucas is I kind of forget that Lucas is a bit of a butthole sometimes, throughout the whole show, really. But especially in this first season, he doesn't want to go along with a lot of the fun stuff that other kids want to do, which is, it's funny. I mean, not a butthole. He is logical and more practical than the rest, but he never wants to do the fun kid thing, man. That's something. Hopper, is showing that he's the kind of cop right here that wants to just jump on any lead and, follow anything. And, we know Will had long hair and the kid that guy was talking about had short hair. So it doesn't work. I love the scene at the table here. This is a group of kids knowing damn well that they're hiding something. It's acted really well. They act like kids here, which I think makes it more fun. And I think it's a sweet scene when they're explaining to 11 what being a friend means. Like, it's kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I can trust people. I think that was well written. And hey, Barb is right. Nancy, don't go out there. But she does. Of course she does. Last thing, I forgot that Hopper was bouncing around doing some things. My boy was getting after it at night, if you know what I'm saying. He wasn't shacking up by himself at this. Now, season 2 gets a little different direction, but he's bounced around doing some things like Jimbo in a brown jacket. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah. First thing I said was kids today will never know the struggle of a phone line and the phone not reaching where you need it to. So that was a pain. Brian, I'm glad you mentioned the quarry and the Terminus building. I had that in my notes as well. That's awesome. Shout out to The Walking Dead. We will be returning there soon. Pretty slick by them folks to make it look like the diner owner shot himself. Yep. Like you said, that's how the government does it. When Jonathan pulls up and gets out of the car, that's the Terminus one. Sorry. 11's powers, much less subtle here. Hell yeah, that was kind of awesome. I'm going to have to disagree with Jonathan and Will's dad here, though. He's definitely is the asshole in this situation. The guy is smoking and talking to Hopper here. He mentions someone fishing in Etowah. Again, there's no Etowah in Indiana, but there is one in Tennessee. Very interesting to me. The Duffers are from North Carolina, though, so I don't know. It's weird. The diner scene here is pretty funny, or the dinner scene here is pretty funny as well. The boys yelling no, that they don't want to go, and then Mike spitting the milk all over himself, Dustin banging the table and saying sorry, spasm. That was just good stuff. Like you said, they're acting like kids. I thought that was really, really well done. I'm ready for the finish.
Yep, here's the end. 11 looks at the Dungeons and Dragons board and closes her eyes. She grabs a wizard, calling it Will. She pushes all the pieces off and flips the board upside down. She says Will is hiding. She says he's hiding from the Demogorgon, and the others panic. Jonathan makes it to the area Will got lost and begins looking around, taking pictures. Jonathan runs towards a girl scream, seeing the kids partying at Steve's house. Nancy and Steve call each other cliches, and she shotguns a beer way better than I ever could. Barb looks on in disgust as Nancy peer pressures her. Barb tries but cuts her hand by mistake. Steve takes her to the bathroom as the other couple jumps into the pool. Steve and Nancy join as well, and they all have fun. Jonathan keeps taking pictures of them until we cut to Joyce, who answers the phone fast as fuck, boy. Same distorted type call, and she cries, thinking it's Will. She hears his voice, but is shocked again, dropping the phone. She cries out of frustration as the lights flicker repeatedly. Suddenly, Should I Stay or Should I Go starts up, and she enters the room seeing no Jonathan either. His lamp flickers, and she thinks it's Will until suddenly the radio and lights cut off. She sees a creature trying to enter through the wall, and she runs out to her car to leave. The song turns back on, and the lights flicker. She goes back inside as we cut back to Steve's. He takes Nancy with him upstairs as Barb tries to stop her. Nancy tells her to go ahead and go home. She's fine. Nancy asks for privacy to change, but instead takes her shirt off, calling his name. They start kissing, and Jonathan is upset seeing it go down. He sees Barb on the diving board with her feet in the water. Her blood drips into the water, and the lights flicker. A Demogorgon appears, and Barb is gone. Jonathan walks back to the car. Steve and Nancy get into bed, and the lights turn back on. All right, Brian, that's the end. What'd you think?
My absolute favorite group of scenes on the rewatch, the Dungeons and Dragons board being used to reference what we know later is Upside Down, is fantastic. I've only actually seen every one of these episodes one time, so watching that, I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty damn cool. And listen, this scene with Joyce trying to talk to Will on the phone was just so heartbreaking. Like, just like Dustin and I both mentioned earlier, she's just so damn good in the show. And it was very cool to also get that Elm Street reference with the Demogorgon through the wall, like that infamous scene with Nancy. I really liked that. And just the whole rest of this thing at Steve's parents' house. Like I said in the open, like, this is what took the show up a notch for me. Also, something that I noticed, the grain filter that was used on the picture that Jonathan takes of the crew swimming, whenever it shows you what he saw, 9 times out of 10, watching a movie and it shows us something like that, it's going to be just black and white, high-res picture. But showing us that grain, which is like realistic for one of those type of cameras and having to use such a low f-stop, causes that grain. And it's very realistic, and I appreciated that detail. Again, just a fantastic ending to my favorite episode so far. Creepy as hell with the whole Barb abduction, I guess. I don't really know what to call it, but I loved it.
Again, sorry, I'm way away from my mic there for some reason. It's the government. They're doing it to me again. Again, I'm not sure what all the D&D stuff means, but it is really cool. You know, obviously the board is a representative of what we come to know as the Upside Down. And you know, I could see some skepticism in my man Lucas. He's like, I don't know, man. You're just putting pieces somewhere. I'm not so sure I would believe you, but I gotta imagine that the hunt, you know, but as a kid, the kind of hunt, the chase to find our friend would be probably, you know, pretty thrilling, pretty cool, for lack of a better term. I will say the music in this series is just damn good, and it's good throughout the whole series. So shout out to the Stranger Things soundtrack. I need to get a couple of those on vinyl. Soon I probably will. I feel like everyone has been Barb. Maybe not. But you're at a get-together, and you're the odd man out. You don't really want to be there. It sucks. So very, very relatable thing to be, just like you're the 5th person out or the 6th person out or whatever. You could tell, like, oh, man, that sucks. And we've all been Barb in that situation. And knowing what time of year it's supposed to be here, I hope that pool was heated, like heated, not just like kind of heated. And man, no, I'm not getting in that. Well, I probably would. If the right group asked me, I probably would. Anyway, especially back then. Sorry. But, I do like that we start the communication from the upside down here. You mentioned the scene of the Demogorgon, pulling a Freddy Krueger. It really takes me back to the first time seeing it, like, whoa, this is a little bit more than I thought it was. Back then I'm like, we have a missing kid and we have this and that. I'm not really sure what's going on. There's Dungeons and Dragons. And then we get that scene. I'm like, whoa, that is okay. We got something more intense here. And buddy, it gets a lot more intense for sure. But again, poor Barb, man, poor freaking Barb. She didn't do anything wrong. Trying to be a good friend to Nancy, and Nancy's kind of a butthole to her here. Not going to lie to you. I will say, and it is touched on, not to my satisfaction though. But Jonathan taking pictures of here is really weird, right? Like, the bar, him taking pictures of Barb. Well, honestly, thank God, because we know where Barb was in her last moments alive. But the whole thing's a little weird. It's a little funky. It does get addressed, but I don't like the way they end up with it. Again, they establish that blood is a trigger for the Demogorgon, and I like that as well. Really cool scene. The Barb abduction kind of kicks it into overdrive, maybe maximum overdrive, for lack of a better term. I thought it was really well done. Bad movie, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, good stuff with 11 flipping the board upside down and saying Will is hiding. It's a great way to plant seeds for what's really happening. Steve had some decent time on that shotgun. I haven't seen a beer shotgun that smoothly since Nico. I will say, though, a knife isn't the best thing to use for shotgunning. I much prefer a key, less likely to pull a barb that way. Jonathan, yeah, glad you said it, Mike. Total creep standing there taking pictures, though. Like, come on, man. Don't be that guy. Good way to end this episode with some tension with the stuff happening with Joyce at the house, the phone call, the lights flickering, the music turning itself on, Freddy coming through the door, the wall. Good stuff here because this was a much slower episode, so it's a good way of giving us some action in the final act. The worst part of the series, or of the episode at least, is that Jonathan is still in the trees taking pics here. Bro's a worse peeping Tom than George McFly. That's from Back to the Future, Nico. Great quick look at the Demogorgon as Nancy is sitting on the diving board there, and she gets snatched up. It's very brief, but it's effective. Overall, I do think I like this episode a tad bit more because it progressed the story more, albeit at a slower pace.
Very fair. You got any fun facts you want to share?
I just got a couple here. During filming of the episode, Millie Bobby Brown showed up to set covered head to toe in glitter, halting production for 30 minutes. All right. And then Steve's bedroom has the same wallpaper as the 80s hit movie Weird Science, which I know Nico has seen.
Weird Science.
That's a good movie, man. I also used to love the series that they did. That was based.
I actually watched the series before I ever watched the old movie.
Same.
So
I did too.
It sucked. And actually, I was like, man, the girl isn't as pretty as she is on the series.
Yeah, dude, same. I had the same thought because I watched the series, when it was on TV when I was a kid, and I thought this was awesome. Yep. And then I got to be a little bit older, and I watched the movie, and it's like, oh, the movie's awesome too. But yeah, you're right. That chick was much hotter. Respectfully.
Well, and I'm not rating mine, but I will say, I do think I'm going to say, like, this is my favorite episode so far of the season, and see if it stays there week to week. Just kind of slot it number one, see if any of them knock it off. But my number one, obviously, so far is the Weirdo on Maple Street for sure.
Okay. And I gave, like I said, I like this one a smidge better than episode 1, so I gave it a 7.25.
Very fair. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? It was fun to be back to DGOT the series. I can't lie. I can't lie. I had a really good time watching these 2 episodes. I was smiling a lot. I had a good time remembering watching it the first time. I even got season 1 on DVD, like the collector's pack from Target. I really like this season. I really like season 3 as well. I'm excited to do that one. Mike, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be back. Go fuck yourself, Brian. I'm excited to be back on DGOT in the series. I appreciate y'all letting me take that break. You definitely did not have to let me back, so I appreciate it. I'm excited to be back, and I'll be back as far as I know, unless somebody kills me cold-blooded dead. I'll be back for good. So I'm excited. And I'm excited to walk back in with Stranger Things because, like Nico, it is one of my favorites as well. And so that's why I rambled a lot tonight, like I'm doing right now. Also, budget information will be on the last episode of season 1.
So will the
There is
David
budget
Arquette.
info out there.
So will the
Gotcha.
David Arquette reference last episode.
So
I'm gonna
stay
need
tuned
like,
to see how much money we
I'm
spend.
gonna need like 3 David Arquette references because this is 8 episodes. I know you can get 3 for me.
Buddy, Winona Ryder's in this show. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Easier one.
That's what I think you should do in every single episode.
All right. Well, I'll double up next week then because I didn't do it
There you
tonight.
go.
With a different character each episode.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
How many can you do? Curious.
Stay tuned to Death Proof. That's all I'm going to say.
Stutter, baby, is what you just did. Anyway.
I didn't stutter. I
We
started
appreciate y'all
talking and
tuning in.
stopped. Sorry.
No, you're good. We appreciate y'all tuning in. It was fun. I'm excited for episodes 3 and 4 next week. Y'all have a good one. Just want to remind everybody.